y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and on this episode we're going to review Fastlane for 2019. Now coming right up because we're about 15 minutes after the show, it's kind of late. We're going to go through these a little bit quickly. First up we have the pre-show match, New Day of Xavier Woods and Big E versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. I didn't like this match, I'm going to be honest with you. I like everybody involved in this match. Shinsuke Nakamura has went from being one of the best wrestlers in the world and one of the highlights, I think, in pro wrestling. He's absolutely one of my favorite wrestlers, to being someone that they can't seem to book properly and they don't know what to do with him. And it bothers me a bit because at one point he was easily a top 5 talent in the world. And it's the same thing over and over again with WWE. They don't know how to properly push foreign talent for the most part. And unfortunately, Shinsuke is suffering because of that. New Day picks up the win here. This match is something you could have seen on Smackdown, which, I don't know, to me, the quality of it was kind of bad. And if this is the first time tuning in, we rate everything on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. I'm going to give this match a 2. I guess maybe it's just me wanting it to be better, but I just didn't like it. Next up, we have the first match of the main card for the Smackdown Tag Team Championship. The Usos versus The Miz and Shane McMahon. One thing I noticed right away was Miz's baseball shirt said Miz and McMahon, and Shane said Shane O'Mac, which kind of found a little weird, and I believe they, as long as they had been a team, that was what they did, which I always thought was weird. Why wouldn't they have either matching baseball shirts that say Miz and Mac, both of them, or Shane have Shane O'Mac and The Miz have The Miz on his? I don't know, to me, it's one of those little things. Maybe it was supposed to be like that, so we got a foreshadowing that Shane felt like he was more important. We seen the match. The Usos pick up the win. Afterwards, we see Shane kind of consoling the Miz. Shane going over to his Miz and with the Miz to his father. Basically, have a nice, good feeling moment. And then Miz starts to walk away. Shane attacks him and beats him down in front of his father, even pushing Mr. Mizanin at one point. Take away Shane's father, who I understand where Miz's, or not Shane's father, Miz's father, not a great actor at all. Even the Miz himself is a better actor, I believe, but he kind of was terrible in this role. And I'm laughing because I'm thinking of the facials he was making as his son's getting beat up 2 feet in front of him, and the struggle to jump the barricade with the security telling him no. I just thought it was a little bit funny. Overall, we kind of knew that this was going to happen. It's been widely reported that was going to be the Mania matchup. We didn't know who was going to be the heel, though. I had heard when it started that it was a vehicle to turn Shane heel, so who knows? I give the match itself a 3. Thought it was a little bit better than the first match, but still not on par with what I would expect on a pay-per-view. There was one cringy moment where Shane's on one corner, I believe it was Jay on the opposite corner, and Shane was threatening to do the coast-to-coast, or Van Terminator as it should be called, and Jay was threatening to do the big splash, and they kind of had an in-air collision, which was a little bit cringy. I didn't really You couldn't really tell how bad it looked, but it looked really bad. It looked like someone might actually got hurt, but they didn't, thankfully. I don't know if I would have done that spot with, especially as good as he is, Shane McMahon is not a wrestler by trade. So I don't know if I would have did that spot. That's just my opinion. Next up, we have the first appearance of Alliance. He runs down runs down Cleveland, talks well about Pittsburgh, says his best friend's LeBron. Nice little heat spot there to get the crowd angry. Afterwards, we have the match for the forgotten title in WWE, the SmackDown Women's Championship, which seems to be getting no press and no care or no build for anything on it. We have Asuka, who, again, much like Shinsuke Nakamura, feels like they don't know what to do with her, versus Mandy Rose, who I have to say is improving every time I see her. Unfortunately, this wasn't one of Mandy's better matches. This was probably one of the worst matches of the night, at least to me, entertainment-wise. It could have been the convoluted ending and how it was set up to be like that and what got us there that made me feel that way, but I just felt like this was another match that missed the mark. Asuka picked up the win when Sonya Deville was going under, I'm thinking Sonya from Mortal Kombat. Anyway, she was going under the ring to get a kendo stick. First she tries on the wrong side, then she goes to the other side and leaves the ring apron too far into the ring, which Mandy trips over. Again, it looked too set up. It looked too, quote-unquote, fake, right, Rhonda? Fuck you, Rhonda, by the way. Actually, it's not fuck her, because I'm sure she's being told to do that. It's very obvious that is a worked shoot. But anyway, it's moments like this when it looks too fake and too staged and too choreographed that take me out of the picture, that take my disbelief out. I know that there's staged moments in matches and planned out moments in matches, but don't make it super obvious, okay? Just, I don't know. Like I said, Asuka picks up the win. I'm going to give the match a 2. Afterwards, we see possibly Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. I'm just pronouncing it wrong on purpose. Sonya Deville threatening to a little bit of a rift between the two. So maybe that'll be a feud going forward. Maybe there's a 3-way between the three for WrestleMania. Who knows? Because WWE doesn't seem to care about it. Next up, we learned that Kofi Kingston on the pre-show was summoned to the McMahon's office. New Day comes to the back. They see Kofi standing outside of the office. He's told him he's been waiting there. So the New Day, all three, barge in. Vince has said he's been waiting for Kofi. And he said he's decided to make the title match a 3-way. And that Kofi needs to go out to the ring because his match is next. Where we find a swerve, which I kind of figured they would do something like that. Sets up Kofi Kingston versus the Bar with the New Day band from ringside in a handicap match, but in addition to it being handicapped, both the members of the Bar could be in the ring at the same time. This felt like something you should be doing on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, and not on a pay-per-view again. It feels... This is a match you use to build up a pay-per-view. And I know Fastlane is a pay-per-view only to build up WrestleMania. But if you're going to build it and book it as a main quality show, I want to have matches built for this show that also could lead to WrestleMania, but not some thrown together overly hyped beatdown. And it's they're kind of using the Stone Cold template for Kofi Kingston and Becky Lynch in different ways by the McMahons screwing them and holding them down. Hopefully we'll get the same payoff at WrestleMania that both of them leave as champions. I don't think we will. I think at least one of the two is not going to. I'm guessing Kofi's not going to. I believe they'll let Becky leave as a world champion at the end of the show. And in my eyes, in my mind, what I would do with what they have booked now, and we'll get to this in a minute, I'd have Becky win that match. Ronda goes away. They shake hands or whatever. Then we see Charlotte getting up from outside or wherever she was, comes in, looks at it, we threaten a beat down. They shake hands and hug. Charlotte holds up her hand, and then we have Bayley and Sasha Banks come out. End the show with the confetti coming down with the 4 horsewomen of NXT closing WrestleMania, which is what I would do. That's how I would book it. I would have booked it where Charlotte won the SmackDown Women's Championship and then we had that moment. But they've already kind of painted themselves into a different corner, so that's how I would book it from there. Just a little personal effect to it. Anywho, back to the match. The Bar picks up the win over Kofi. This match I didn't like. It was boring. The New Day did try to come out, which maybe we'll see some repercussions. They probably will ignore it. Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev cut them off. I give the match all in all a 1. I don't see the purpose other than it being hyped for WrestleMania. And again, this should have been saved for a SmackDown or saved for Raw or whatever. We already had a heel turn earlier in the night, and we had some other things happen later in the show that this kind of is going to be a forgotten piece of chicanery, basically. For the second time, we have Elias, and he's getting a lot of coverage tonight, comes out, sings another song dissing Cleveland. Again, it is what it is. I didn't hate it. His shtick, I think, I like his shtick. His character is good, but I think there's a tipping point where it goes from good heat to go away heat, where we're okay with you annoying the crowd or annoying the home teams and annoying the hometown, but 90% of people watching this aren't from Cleveland and don't really care. The home audience doesn't care. So there's that aspect. Plus, we understand it's the cheap heat thing, and we don't need to see this more than once. We've seen him a total of 3 times, and the third time is the most elaborate, but we'll talk on that when we get there. Next up, we have, for the Raw Tag Team Championship, the Revival versus Aleister Black and Ricochet versus Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. I thought this was a good match. I thought it was okay. This is probably, up until this point, my favorite match of the night. However, again, it felt like a Monday Night Raw match. It didn't feel special. It didn't feel like there was anything they did here that was important or groundbreaking. The Revival picked up the win in the match, and afterwards, the face teams of Black and Ricochet attack after Roode and Gable attack. So I believe the Revival are supposed to be the heels in this situation, but they weren't painted as such afterwards. So to me, that took away from it a bit. I thought the match itself was serviceable, but again, not anything we can't see on Monday Night Raw and probably will see again tomorrow. With that being said, I thought it was a good match, not a high quality. Again, my favorite one to the point at that point of the show. I'm going to give this a 3. Again, the Revival picked up the win there. Now, next up, we have a match that basically blossomed on the pre-show. And originally it was supposed to be Rey Mysterio versus Andrade. We seen Carmella trying to circulate a petition to get R-Truth a U.S. title shot, which brings Joe into that. It says, I'll defend the title against all 3 of these guys, against Mysterio, Andrade, and Truth, which turns the match into a 4-way. Which I'm glad it did, because juxtaposed against the match before, all four of these guys, all four of these competitors really brought something a little bit different. They hyped it up. Their level of intensity felt like it went to a higher level. It felt like that they put it into overdrive. It felt like a special match between these four. And kudos to all four people. I think they're all solid. Rey Mysterio, one of the best cruiserweights of all time. Andrade, one of the best. I hate to say up-and-coming talents because he's been doing it for so long. But as far in the WWE hierarchy, he's an up-and-coming talent. R-Truth, criminally underrated. And Samoa Joe, to me, one of the best wrestlers of the last 20 years. So, they put on a really solid match, a really good Fatal 4-Way. Joe picks up the win here. I really enjoyed this match. I have to say this is my favorite match of the night. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I thought it was really good. Next up, we have for the Women's Tag Team Championship, the Boss and Hug Connection, Bayley and Sasha Banks, versus Team Rock's family. And it's Tamina and Nia Jax. And I lovingly say that it just kind of feels like these two are constantly pushed because of their family connections. And no knock on either one of them. They're both pretty talented. I actually think Tamina's the more talented of the two. Nia's a better character. So them together, I think, works out really well. However, I don't think they allow them to basically work on their own merit. They basically paint them in as just being what they are and kind of feels like they're privileged. Anywho, back to the match itself. I thought this was a good quality match. I think we're seeing something build here where Bayley takes the most of the match and controls most of the match is more of the ring general of the two. Maybe this will finally, when they do break up, put Bayley on equal or higher ground than Sasha Banks. But for now, I like the dichotomy. I like how they work together. It makes perfect sense that they work together. Hopefully for WrestleMania, we'll see them versus either... I'd like to see them either versus the Riot Squad or the Iconics. I think they're both good heel teams that I think can, really build a great match with those two. Boss and Hug pick up the win. I'm going to give the match a 3. I thought it was good. It was, again, I keep hammering into this point. This would have made a really good Monday Night Raw main event. Mid-card of the pay-per-view, it just doesn't feel as special. But again, maybe that's just me. Next up we have for the WWE Championship, Kevin Owens going up against Daniel Bryan, and we do remember Vince McMahon said it was going to be a 3-way. Surprise, surprise, it's not Kofi Kingston, it's Mustafa Ali, who, if you remember, got screwed out of his spot to put Kofi Kingston in the Elimination Chamber, so it kind of came full circle. This is another match that maybe I felt my expectations may have been higher than what the match was. Not that it was a bad match, not that it was terrible, but I kind of expected this to be the best match of the night, and to me it fell a little bit short. It ended up being the third best match of the night, in my opinion. I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. I'd like to see these three go with each other again. Maybe it's a little bit to do with Kevin Owens having some ring rust from coming back from an injury. Same thing with Mustafa Ali. So we have two of the guys who've recently returned from injury, and Daniel Bryan, one of the best wrestlers there's ever been in the world. I thought it was good. Maybe it's the fact that nobody believed that anybody but Bryan was walking out of this champion, because we know it's going to be Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston at WrestleMania. It's so obvious that is what they're going with, so could be the fact that it was anticlimactic that drew me away from it. But all in all, I just felt it fell a little bit flat for my expectations. Daniel Bryan did pick up the win. I give the match a 3 out of 5. Like I said, it fell flat to me. Maybe if I looked at it as a standalone, it may be better. But I'm just basing it off of what I've seen tonight. Next up, we have the match that I think probably should have been the main event. It had the most importance. If you're not going to put the world title on as a main event, which I never understand when they do that, the world title should always be the main event, unless you have something like a lights out match or an unsanctioned match, where you wait till after the card's over and then you put the unsanctioned match on, or something of that nature, or a Hell in a Cell or cage match, where you have to bring the cage down, so you have to waste some time to that. So, putting it on the end makes it easiest, but I digress. Charlotte versus Becky Lynch. If Becky wins, she gets into WrestleMania, makes it a 3-way match. I thought this was good. I don't know how much of Becky's leg injury is real and how much of it is television. Funny that we're talking about real in a match that Ronda Rousey gets involved in. We've seen these two wrestle so much together that it's... I don't want to say we've grown tired of it, of Charlotte versus Becky. I think it's a great match every time they step in the ring. It kind of feels a little bit formulaic at times. And that's no knock on either one of these. Even watching The Rock versus Austin back in the day, it felt a little bit formulaic at times. Anytime you get two competitors that wrestle this much against each other, it tends to do that. And it kind of shows a glaring weakness in the women's division. As much strides as we've made, the higher upper crust of the card isn't as fluid as the men's division. Where in the men's division we've had Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Mustafa Ali, Samoa Joe, and that's just right off the top of my head on the Smackdown side. So, and that's over the recent years. And on the women's side, we've had basically Charlotte, Becky, and Asuka, and Ronda on the Raw side, and maybe Bliss if you count her in there. So there's a little bit of a logjam at the top, which is bound to happen. The people at the top are definitely the most talented women in division. I'm not knocking it. It's just that it's a little bit stagnant, in my opinion. Becky picks up the win when Ronda Rousey comes out and punches her as she's in a submission hold, thus causing Charlotte to get disqualified, thus sending Becky Lynch to the triple threat match, which is where I knew it was going to be all along. Big payoff is going to be Becky winning at WrestleMania. That is so obvious right now. Let's just hope it's not a situation where they waited too long to pull the trigger, or they screwed her too much that the fans stopped caring. Next up, we have the third appearance of Elias for the night. He sings a song, talks about this is how it should be. I didn't get interrupted once, which, of course, causes Lacey Evans to come out and do her little catwalk thing, which I don't get that, but okay. Maybe that's building to something. I think this is where they were wanting to go with the Emelina character, but a little bit of a twist on that. I think this is kind of what they wanted to do with her, but a different version of it. That distracts Elias, who's watching her walk away. He gets hit with an RKO by Randy Orton, who then stands up and gets hit with a flying forearm by AJ Styles. So we obviously see that AJ and Randy is going to be built up for WrestleMania. I'm happy with that. I can live with that. That's going to be a great match. I think that's going to be a great showing on the card. I don't know where they're going to fit it in, because at this time, and I'll talk about it here in a second, we have two men's tag championships, a women's tag championship, 2 women's world titles, 2 men's world titles, a U.S. title, a cruiserweight title, an intercontinental title, So that's 9 championships, and I think I might even be missing one, that are on the main show. So that's 9 different matches for the 9 titles, unless all the titles aren't going to be defended, which could possibly happen. But then you have to have the 2 Battle Royals, again, unless they go away. And there's usually at least 1 or 2 matches that aren't. So we're at 11 matches right now with just what we think will happen. I'm pretty sure Batista and Triple H is a 12th match. And then obviously Randy versus AJ would be a 13th match. So I don't know if they're going to go with that many matches, if something might end up getting cut. We're getting to the point where it's almost that they have to make WrestleMania a 2-day event now, or decide that some titles just aren't going to be defended and some people have to go into the Battle Royal that are champions, i.e. one of the tag champions, i.e. either the Intercontinental or the U.S. title, or both, especially if they're going to want to do matches that don't have a title attached. So just in my opinion, that's what they're probably going to do. I think they're going to cut some of that down. If I were to go with it, I would say the New Day is probably going to not make WrestleMania. Actually, you know what? I would say the Revival is probably going to be the one that goes into the Battle Royal. Their tag title will get cut. Boston Hug will probably go into the Women's Battle Royal if they do the both Battle Royals, so that'll get cut. So we're down back to 11 matches, which is about where they like to stay. But anyway, I digress. Talking about Fastlane, not WrestleMania, even though this is the build to WrestleMania. Finally, the final match of the night, what is being billed as the last ride for the Shield. The Shield versus Baron Corbin, Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre. I thought this was a good match, a really nice car crash type match. Kind of what we would expect from the Shield. This is kind of what we got early on in the Shield, where they would wrestle all around the arena. Ambrose and Rollins would do crazy things. Reigns would do some super power moves and look amazing. And it kind of felt like that again. It felt like all 3 men were superstars again, and not one was standing out above the other 2. I thought the match was good. I liked the Shield picking up the win. I thought that was a good decision. However, I would like to see some kind of turn at the end. I would like to see maybe Ambrose turn on Rollins, or turn on Reigns. Reigns turn on Rollins, possibly, or even Ambrose, or both. Maybe putting Reigns into a 3-way situation with Rollins and Lesnar, because he didn't lose the title, if that's what they wanted to do. Or setting up a match between Reigns and Ambrose for WrestleMania, since as of right now, we don't have anything planned for either. That being said, I'm okay if this truly is the last ride of the Shield, and now they're openly talking about Dean Ambrose leaving WWE on WWE television. It's one thing that they reported on their website, which I thought was weird. Now they're reporting it on their show. I wonder if they're going to try and do like a Summer of Punk type storyline with Ambrose, reincarnate that. At this point, I can't believe they would be talking up him leaving so much, both on the internet and on the show, if he was actually leaving. So I think he's going to stay. Overall, I give the match itself a 4. I thought it was really good. Some positives on the show, some negatives. The Shield match was good. I really enjoyed the U.S. title 4-way. I really enjoyed. The 3-way for the WWE Championship I thought was good. Could have been better. The 3-way for the Raw Tag Championship, same boat. A lot of bad. New Day versus Shinsuke and Rusev I didn't like. Usos versus Miz and Shane felt a little bit contrived. Asuka and Mandy and Kofi versus The Bar missed the mark for me altogether. So overall, I'm going to give this show a 3. Right in the middle. Like I said, there was some good, a lot of bad, some bad, and a lot that was just there. But with all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been my review of Fastlane 2019.